Have you ever noticed that the person you talk to the most is yourself? Every single day, there's a conversation happening inside your mind. No one else hears it. No one else sees it. But that conversation shapes every decision you make, every risk you take, and every dream you either chase or abandon. The difference between people who give up and people who keep moving forward isn't always talent, intelligence, or luck. More often, it's the story they tell themselves when things get hard. Winners aren't born thinking they're unstoppable. They become winners because they learn to replace doubt with belief, fear with purpose, and excuses with action, one conversation at a time. Today, we're going to explore how changing the way you speak to yourself can completely transform the way you live, work, and succeed. Because the moment your inner voice starts working for you instead of against you, everything begins to change. Every single person has a voice that follows them everywhere they go. It speaks before every decision, after every mistake, and during every challenge. It is the one conversation that never truly stops, even in complete silence. This inner voice is more powerful than most people realize because it quietly shapes the way you see yourself, the opportunities you pursue, and the limits you accept. Long before the world tells you who you are, your own mind has already started creating that story. If that story is filled with confidence, resilience, and hope, you begin to move through life differently. If that story is filled with fear, doubt, and criticism, even the greatest opportunities can feel impossible. Think about how often you speak to yourself throughout the day. You may not even notice it because it happens automatically. You wake up, look in the mirror, and your mind instantly begins making judgments. You face a difficult task, and your thoughts immediately predict whether you will succeed or fail. You make a mistake, and before anyone else says a word, your inner voice has already delivered its verdict. These quiet moments may seem small, but together they become the foundation of your confidence and your future. Many people believe that success begins with external circumstances. They think they need more money, better connections, greater talent, or perfect timing before they can change their lives. But the truth is that lasting change usually begins much earlier. It begins with the beliefs you carry inside your own mind. The way you interpret challenges determines how you respond to them. Two people can experience the exact same setback, yet one sees it as proof that they are incapable, while the other sees it as valuable feedback for improvement. The event is the same, but the inner conversation creates two completely different realities. Imagine planting two seeds in different kinds of soil. One grows in rich, healthy ground that provides everything it needs to develop strong roots. The other struggles in dry, neglected soil where growth becomes difficult. Your thoughts are the soil of your life. Every dream, every goal, and every action grows from the mental environment you create. When your inner voice constantly reminds you that you are capable of learning, improving, and adapting, you create conditions where confidence can grow. When your thoughts repeatedly tell you that you are not good enough, not smart enough, or not worthy enough, even your greatest potential begins to weaken before it has the chance to flourish. Your brain is always listening to the words you repeat. It pays attention to patterns more than isolated moments. If you repeatedly tell yourself that you always fail, your mind begins searching for evidence to support that belief. If you constantly remind yourself that you are becoming stronger through every challenge, your brain starts noticing progress instead of defeat. This is why your inner dialogue matters so much. It influences what you focus on, what you expect, and ultimately how you behave. Consider the difference between saying, "I can't do this," and saying, "I haven't learned how to do this yet." The situation may be exactly the same, but the second statement leaves room for growth. One closes the door before you even begin. The other reminds you that ability is something you can develop. That single shift in language changes your mindset from permanent limitation to continuous possibility. One of the greatest obstacles people face is believing every thought that enters their mind. Not every thought deserves your trust. Fear often speaks loudly, especially when you are stepping outside your comfort zone. Doubt appears whenever you attempt something meaningful. Your mind naturally tries to protect you from uncertainty by encouraging safety and familiarity. While this instinct may keep you comfortable, it can also prevent you from discovering what you are truly capable of achieving. Successful people are not individuals who never experience negative thoughts. They simply refuse to let those thoughts become permanent beliefs. They understand that fear is a feeling, not a fact. They recognize that temporary failure does not define their identity. Instead of allowing one bad moment to become a lifelong label, they separate their mistakes from their worth. They know they can fail at a task without becoming a failure as a person. Your inner voice also influences the energy you bring into every room. When you believe you have something valuable to contribute, your posture changes, your communication becomes clearer, and your willingness to participate increases. Confidence is not just something others notice. It begins with the private conversations you have with yourself long before anyone else is watching. The world often responds to the image you project, and that image is built from the beliefs you practice every day. This doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect or ignoring real challenges. Positive self-talk is not about lying to yourself. It is about choosing thoughts that encourage action instead of surrender. It means acknowledging difficulties while refusing to believe they define your future. It means replacing harsh self-judgment with honest self-reflection. There is a powerful difference between saying, "I made a mistake," and saying, "I am a mistake." One creates an opportunity to learn. The other creates unnecessary shame. Every achievement begins with a decision that someone first believed was possible. Before an athlete wins a championship, before an entrepreneur builds a successful business, before an artist creates something unforgettable, there is a moment when they decide not to let doubt become the loudest voice in their mind. They choose belief before they see results. They continue moving before certainty arrives. Their actions are guided by an inner conversation that supports growth rather than fear. The words you repeat to yourself become habits, and habits eventually become your identity. If every challenge is met with courage instead of defeat, resilience becomes part of who you are. If every setback is viewed as an opportunity to improve, growth becomes your natural response. Identity is not created overnight. It is shaped through thousands of repeated thoughts, choices, and actions that reinforce the person you believe yourself to be. Every morning offers a fresh opportunity to choose the story you will tell yourself. You can carry yesterday's disappointments into today, or you can remind yourself that every new day brings another chance to improve. Your past may explain where you have been, but it does not have to determine where you are going. The conversation you have with yourself today has the power to influence the decisions you make tomorrow. The reality you experience on the outside is often a reflection of the beliefs you continue to strengthen on the inside. Self-doubt is one of the quietest obstacles a person can face, yet it has the power to stop dreams before they ever become reality. It doesn't always appear as fear or anxiety. Sometimes it disguises itself as logic, caution, or waiting for the perfect moment. It whispers that you're not ready, that someone else is more talented, that you should wait until you know more, have more experience, or feel more confident. The problem is that confidence rarely comes before action. More often, confidence is built because of action. Every person who has achieved something meaningful has faced moments of uncertainty. They questioned themselves. They wondered whether they were good enough. They worried about making mistakes or being judged by others. The difference is not that successful people never experience self-doubt. The difference is that they refuse to let doubt make their decisions for them. They recognize that fear is a natural response to growth, not a signal to stop moving. Think back to a time when you learned something completely new. Maybe it was riding a bicycle, speaking in front of a group, learning a language, or starting a new job. At the beginning, everything felt unfamiliar. You made mistakes. You felt uncomfortable. There were moments when quitting seemed easier than continuing. But each small improvement proved something important. You weren't becoming successful because you already believed in yourself. You were beginning to believe in yourself because you kept showing up despite the discomfort. Self-belief is often misunderstood. Many people imagine it as a feeling that suddenly appears one day, giving them unlimited confidence. In reality, self-belief is built through repeated evidence. Every promise you keep to yourself strengthens it. Every challenge you face instead of avoiding adds another brick to its foundation. Every time you choose discipline over excuses, you send yourself a powerful message that you are someone who can be trusted. Imagine two people standing at the base of the same mountain. Both want to reach the top. One spends hours questioning whether they're strong enough, whether the climb will be too difficult, and whether they might fail halfway. The other also has those thoughts, but instead of staying at the bottom, they take one small step forward. After enough steps, the second person reaches places the first person could only imagine. The mountain didn't become smaller. The difference was created by action, not certainty. One of the biggest mistakes people make is waiting until they feel fearless before they begin. Fear doesn't disappear because you think about success. It fades because you repeatedly face the things that once intimidated you. Every time you step outside your comfort zone, your mind gathers new evidence that challenges old beliefs. What once seemed impossible slowly becomes familiar. What once felt overwhelming begins to feel manageable. Your mind naturally remembers failures more vividly than successes. This is part of human survival. Long ago, remembering danger helped people stay alive. Today, that same instinct can become a barrier to personal growth. One mistake can seem larger than 10 victories. One criticism can outweigh countless compliments. If you're not careful, your brain begins building an identity around isolated failures instead of lifelong progress. This is why replacing self-doubt with self-belief requires intentional effort. You must consciously choose which evidence deserves your attention. Instead of asking yourself why you might fail, ask yourself what you've already overcome. Think about the challenges you've survived, the lessons you've learned, and the obstacles you've conquered. The person you are today is already stronger than the person you were years ago because experience has shaped you in ways you often overlook. Another powerful source of self-doubt is comparison. In today's world, it's easier than ever to compare your beginning with someone else's success. Social media often shows polished achievements while hiding years of struggle, rejection, and persistence. When you constantly measure yourself against others, you lose sight of your own progress. Growth is personal. Your journey was never meant to look exactly like anyone else's. The only comparison that truly matters is between the person you were yesterday and the person you are becoming today. Small improvements may seem insignificant in a single day, but over weeks, months, and years, they create extraordinary transformation. A single page read each day becomes dozens of books. A single workout becomes lasting health. One courageous decision becomes a completely different life. Your language also plays a major role in shaping belief. Pay attention to the words you use when speaking about yourself. If you constantly say, "I'm terrible at this," "I'll never succeed," or "I'm just not good enough," your brain begins treating those statements as facts. Words repeated often enough become beliefs, and beliefs influence behavior. When you replace absolute limitations with possibilities, your perspective changes. Saying, "I'm learning," "I'm improving," or "I'm getting stronger every day," encourages your mind to keep searching for growth instead of defeat. Self-belief also grows when you stop expecting perfection. Perfection is an impossible standard that convinces people not to start unless they can guarantee flawless results. But excellence has never been built on perfection. It has always been built on persistence. Every expert was once a beginner. Every confident speaker once struggled with nervousness. Every accomplished leader once questioned their own abilities. Mistakes are not proof that you lack potential. They are proof that you are stretching beyond your current limits. Growth always feels uncomfortable because it requires becoming someone you have never been before. If every step feels easy, chances are you're staying inside familiar territory where little transformation occurs. The people who inspire us most are rarely those who avoided failure. They are those who refused to let failure define them. They understood that every setback carried valuable lessons. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" they asked, "What can this teach me?" That simple shift transforms obstacles into opportunities for development. Every decision you make either strengthens self-doubt or strengthens self-belief. When you break promises to yourself, avoid challenges, or surrender too quickly, doubt becomes louder. When you honor your commitments, embrace discomfort, and continue despite uncertainty, belief grows stronger. Your confidence is not determined by luck, talent, or approval from others. It is built through the choices you make repeatedly, especially when no one is watching. The greatest transformation begins the moment you stop looking for permission to believe in yourself. No achievement, promotion, award, or compliment can permanently replace the belief you choose to build from within. The person you become tomorrow is shaped by the thoughts you accept today, the actions you take despite fear, and the quiet decision to trust that you are capable of becoming more than your doubts have ever allowed you to imagine. One of the biggest reasons people lose motivation is because they believe success should happen quickly. They set ambitious goals, work hard for a short period, and then become discouraged when the results don't match their expectations. They begin to question whether they are talented enough, whether they chose the right path, or whether success is simply meant for someone else. What they often fail to realize is that meaningful growth is rarely dramatic in the beginning. It is built through small, consistent improvements that seem almost invisible until enough time has passed. The world celebrates big achievements. We admire the athlete who wins the championship, the entrepreneur who builds a successful company, or the artist who creates something extraordinary. What we rarely see are the countless ordinary days that made those accomplishments possible. We don't witness the early mornings, the repeated failures, the quiet practice sessions, or the moments when progress seemed painfully slow. Success often appears sudden from the outside, but from the inside, it is usually the result of steady effort repeated over a long period of time. This is why focusing on progress instead of perfection is so important. Perfection convinces you that every step must be flawless before it counts. Progress reminds you that every small improvement matters. Perfection creates pressure. Progress creates momentum. Perfection tells you that one mistake means you failed. Progress teaches you that mistakes are part of the learning process. Imagine climbing a staircase in a dark room. You may not be